Next, we have Director of Recreation and Community Services, the Columbia Park Design Concept. Darcy McLeod, Director of Recreation and Community Services, along with Loren Snook and Alona Adrahanko from Crosby, Hanna and Associates on Zoom will present to us. Also joining us via Zoom for a portion of the presentation is Graham Cook and Bishop Mosby from the Canadian Ramp Company. Good evening, Darcy.
Good evening. Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Council. The Columbia Park Development Steering Committee and Crosby, Hanna and Associates are nearing the end of the design process for the development of Columbia Park. Specifically, the park will include basketball courts, a pump bike park, a parking lot, and a storm drainage system, along with other amenities, as future budgets allowed. Crosby, Hanna and Associates were awarded the design and construction management for the project following a public request for proposal process. The proposal included the Canadian Ramp Company completing the pump bike park portion of the project. The public engagement process started in June and ran through September. To guide the work of Crosby, Hanna and Associates, the steering committee made up of the following admin staff have been involved providing direction to the consultants on this project. They include myself, Renee Richard, Director of Engineering and Asset Management, Jeff Fawcett, Manager of Capital Projects, Julie Schofer, Program Services Manager, and Matt Charney, Parks Manager. The steering committee, along with Crosby, Hanna, engaged basketball users as part of the design process, as well as provided a community survey, which specifically addressed the pump bike design elements, along with other possible park features. Also, general information and a survey was distributed to residents within 300 meters of the park, which also informed the design concept. Further, Engineering and Asset Management engaged ISL Engineering and Land Services Limited to develop a drainage plan for the park, as this space was designated as an integral part of the drainage plan to control runoff following significant rain events. This design is included in the concept plan. We're ready to submit the findings of the engagement process and final concept design to Council for your approval, so we can proceed to tender and prepare for construction in the spring and summer of 2023. So now I'd like to, over Zoom or via Zoom, introduce Lorraine Snook and Alana Andrahenko from Crosby, Hanna and Associates to present the design concept for council consideration, and Graham Cook and Bishop Mosby from the Canadian Ramp Company will join them to walk through the pump bike portion of the presentation. Then I will follow up with the rest of my report once they're done. So over to you, Lorraine.
Awesome. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
It's all good? Okay, awesome. Thanks so much. Thanks for having us. I'm so sorry that I'm not able to be there in person. I seem to have caught the flu that is going around, so I figured I'd better keep it to myself and not pass it on to you folks. So I am Lorraine Snook from Crosby, Hanna and Associates. I'm Principal Landscape Architect in our Regina office. We also have a Saskatoon office where we also have community planners, and Alona, who has her camera off.
Yeah, hello. Apparently host, I turned my camera off and I cannot turn it on, and I cannot text anyone to get it on. So hello, yeah, my name is Alona and I'm project landscape architect with Hanna. And so I was involved in concept and just excited where we will end up with this project.
For sure. And we know that when we saw the RFP, we knew that pump track design and construction is really a specialized field, and so we knew that we needed to get somebody else on board. So we have engaged Canadian Ramp Company, who has their partner Velo Solutions, and I'll let Graham introduce himself.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for inviting us to the meeting this evening with you. My name is Graham Cook. I'm Vice President of Canadian Ramp Company. We, as Lorraine alluded to, specialize in anything action sports, and pump tracks fall under that division. Super excited to be here and kind of present to you guys the findings we found from that portion of this project and the design that we've come up with that. Joining me from Canadian Ramp Company as well is Bishop Mosby. He is one of our action sports development specialists.
And can you just describe Velo Solutions as well?
Yeah, Velo Solutions is the premier pump track builder in the world. It's top quality pump tracks, similar to ones you may have seen in your communities around Battleford, Martinsville, just recently that we did. And they are also, they're so well renowned in the industry that they are the only track that Red Bull will host international and national championships on for the UCI World Pump Track Tour. They are also a great partner of us. We work with them constantly. Unfortunately, Amadeo was not able to join us this evening, but we're looking forward anyways to showing you what we came up with.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So I'll just share my screen here, and I'll just take you through this presentation. Oh, there we go. Okay. Everybody can see that?
Yes.
So we'll just go through who we are. So we've already talked about these folks. The other folks that are not yet involved but will be critical are WSP Engineering. So part of the scope of this project was to do civil engineering and also electrical engineering. There was a scope to do some amount of lights, and then we needed them to WSP also to do the paving. Sorry, not the paving, a parking lot, which will be gravel at first. And then, as Darcy already alluded to, there was a bit of an addition to the work that was related to the flood mitigation. And so WSP will also do that portion as well. So what is our role? We're here to assist you folks to develop a vision and concept plan for the redevelopment of BMX Park. I think that is what people are most familiar with calling that area. To provide technical drawings and specifications of the work that's going to be constructed, and then, as Darcy said, to manage the construction contract on behalf of the city. So I know that you know this site, but we'll just run through it really quickly. It is next to Columbia School. It's about 57 acres, so it's a good-sized park. It has these streets, Independent, Bradbrook wrapping around, and then Franklin Avenue on the other side. What's interesting about this is that for 3 sides, really the access is only from an alley. The other side has this adjoining property line with the school. So there's a nice little overlap. We don't have street frontage. The only kind of park connection is this in here, which is a municipal utility easement. And so you'll see how the concept plan takes advantage of that. Just a few pictures. This is looking from the south up to the north. Got a good number of mature trees, also some new ones. On the east side, you've got residential, just single family residential, and then apartments on this north side as well as the south side. It's pretty flat, and in some places it was retaining wall where we were on site. And of course, this project will take care of that. And then, as this was a past use of BMX Park, you can see that it's still being used a little bit in an informal way. But you can see also how it's not draining because of the buildup of the land there. So just in terms of our timeline and where we're at, we started in May. And with a bit of a conversation, then we were able to visit the site and had the first stakeholder engagement session at that time. And that really engaged the basketball and the pump track folks. Unfortunately, the basketball people were more available at that time than the pump track. But as you'll see later when we talk about some of the survey results, you can see that it seems like that part of the community is not as well developed as basketball. But we then have developed a preliminary park concept plan. We are now at council presentation. We hope to have an open house this coming week, which takes our concept plan out to the public, and then doing the final concept and budget just before Christmas, and then for city approval early in January. So what's interesting in here to point out is this additional scope that was added. So when we came to the site, it was we didn't know that this would be added, but it's of course makes sense. This was based on the study that was done, I believe, by ISL after your flooding that happened in 2010. And of course, it makes sense to, when you're redeveloping this park, one of their recommendations of that study was that this park could be home to a stormwater pond, and it had certain volume requirements around it, how it might connect into the wider system. So that went through a bit of a process. We needed to figure out how that might work. We still wanted it to function as a park. And then we needed to figure out technically what that actually would mean. And so that took a little bit of work to do that, but I think we have a plan that will function for both stormwater management and for the flood mitigation. At that time, we also did a bit of a survey, an online survey, and I don't know if you were able to look at that I think it was in July. And we knew that a pump track was not a really well-known entity. It's really new, just even in the larger centers. It's just very new for people, and so we thought that it would be a good idea. It was Darcy's idea to get us all on a little video interview, and so with Darcy, myself, and Graham, we did a little bit of interview so that we could help people to understand what a pump track means and what it looks like and who uses it and that kind of thing. And so that was sort of the header to that online survey, and I think that was really effective. Then we just go right into the, the full build out. So this is a north-south. North is up on this plan. It's very much a long and narrow sort of park. So we have the 3 back alleys, then we have the connection into the public street through this utility parcel over here. So the big pieces, we wanted to make sure that those would fit nicely and integrate onto the site. So this is the pump track, and I won't talk about that because Graham will talk about that. We've got the 2 basketball courts, and they're shown as being fenced and also lit. There's good access on either side. We've also staged, it's quite hard to see, we've also staged enough area here to when events might take place, if there are leagues that want to have events, that there needs some staging with tents and tables and that sort of thing. And so we've sort of designed this space to make sure that that is incorporated. And then one of the other big features is the storm ponds and swales. So that one storm pond is located up here, the other storm pond is located over here. Generally speaking, the flows come from the west and travel out, and there's already a culvert over here, and that's how the water exits this area currently. So the connection to these storm ponds are these swales. They just wrap right around the park. The dashed lines are culverts, so we're connecting underneath these roadways and underneath the pathways, underneath this pathway, into the storm pond. And then right now, the exit would be a new exit out of this storm pond in a flooding or in a rain event through to a new catch basin and lead that would take it out onto the street. So we take advantage of this parcel in here. And then we've got lots of connections, logical connections. Everybody wants to come to the park at the corner. So the northwest, northeast, the southeast, and the southwest, and then again across through here, this goes into that residential area. Nice connections to and around the basketball court. It's a big facility. We thought we needed to get around it as well as to it. Coming up to the pump track here, we've got one connection. All of the pathways will be, we're not at this level yet of design, but all of the pathways will be accessible. And so that means there's a certain maximum amount of slope that we'll need to achieve in order to do that. So we make sure that we're accommodating folks in wheelchairs or who are have other mobility issues. Parking lot, we've got 2 parking lots. That was also part of the mandate. One parking lot on the south, we think this is going to be the area that people will come to first, or mostly. So we've got 27 stalls here we're showing, and then 16 at the top. Of course, we'll need to, once we get to it, we'll need to make sure that we have the required amount of accessible parking through there. Other features are light standards. This was a part of the mandate as well, to provide parking lot lighting as well as basketball lighting through here. So obviously this is just conceptual. We haven't gotten to that level of detail yet, and our electrical engineer will tell us what the right layout is. Sorry, just 1 second. Yeah. And then we've got a picnic area, seating area, and it's nicely located, easy access from the parking lot, but also nicely located between the two facilities. So if you're at the pump track, or if you're at the basketball courts, or if you were just wanting to be in the park, using we've drawn it as a soccer pitch, but it's really an open play area. So nicely located in the center. We're also showing a washroom building. So this is a future consideration. It hasn't been costed yet. It's not in the future plan. It's not in the current plan. We want to make sure to show it so that we could make sure it had good connections, good maintenance access, good location, close to people but not too close to people. And then just a bit of land formation outside of what the storm ponds will do, the berms over here and over here. It just allows a little bit of variation, and people can sit on them as well. And then the existing trees, the parking lot that's laid out this way is laid out in such a way to try to save as many of the existing trees as possible. If you're there, you know that there's a lot of trees down in this area, and then there's a lot of trees in the north area. We had to remove the trees, some of these trees up here. Some of these are poplar, and we'll remove them anyway. It's because they're getting to the end of their life, and they can be a bit of a hazard, but we're replacing them with the proposed trees. So we use trees in certain ways. These ones are trying to mark the edge of that park and sort of say, this is where the park is, and pay attention. And then obviously we want to use the deciduous trees as shade, providing shade. We know that in July and August, shade is really, really important. And then the last piece of vegetation is just the shrub beds. We use shrub beds in certain ways just to provide interest, but also to help to guide people to where they should go and where they, try to stay away from, creating those desire lines. So we use shrub beds in that way. So that's the full build out. This is our proposed phase 1 right now. So just go through the main features. We have the pump track, basketball courts. Basketball courts are without lighting and without fencing and without the acrylic surfacing at this point. Parking lot, the storm pond and swales are in. And then we needed to make sure that even in the first phase, or at least this is what we want, even in the first phase, that we have an accessible pathway to get to that pump track. And so we needed to put in some amount of the pathways that were shown in the full build out. And then some of that land formation, we will grade the park. We needed to grade the park in order to make the storm ponds work, but also just to make the future and the phase 1 pieces to drain properly. So it has to be graded. So we'll do those perms at that time. And then that was just the existing trees. So I guess importantly is that in phase 1, we don't have any, at this point, we don't have any new trees. Okay, and I will give this over to Graham. And Graham, you can just tell me when to advance.
Perfect. Thank you, Lorraine. So this is, as Lorraine alluded to, we had done some community engagement a few months ago with online surveys, as well as meetings and site, site selection and all that kind of stuff. And this is the track that kind of fits within the proposed budget and within the answers that we received from your community members in the survey on, skill levels, the types of riders they would be. One of the things that was called out in the survey was there was need for kind of encompass everybody from advanced users right down to beginner users. So this track is laid out in a way which you'll see on a 3D rendering that kind of has a double bump near the bottom of the track, which very easily allows it to kind of be a multi choose your way. That way, if you have smaller children that may come to the track, they may not be able to do the full 166 meter track length. That gives them multiple options to come out of the track on the 2 different platform areas. So the one on the far left is a large starting area, which allows for kids to congregate be able to sit up there, as well as parents who may be with smaller children to help them. And then we kind of have an exit and another platform on the far right, which also allows for somebody to exit the track very easily if they're getting tired or they wish to come out of it. And they could also congregate up there. The track is a total, as I said, of 166 meters in length. It's 616 square meters of asphalt. It is a good-sized track. It is a track that could be used for competitions if later desired. And yeah, we're super excited. It's a custom layout. There's no other track in the world that has this exact layout on it. And we've made use of obviously multiple berms and turns and bumps. And then the plan for drainage for the track, as you can see, the 4 drainage holes located variously in what I call the pits. They will all tie into a central PVC pipe and be piped out to the retention pond. So that'll keep it nice and dry for everybody to use. As Lorraine also mentioned, there'll be an asphalt access pathway, which comes up to the very first starting area. The reason that it's recommended to do this particular path in phase 1 in asphalt is because of the scooters, the skateboards, the rollerblades, the bikes. This will help. Also, wheelchairs will help to minimize transfer of any material that may come off of, say, a chipstone path or something like that. We can probably slide over to the rendering, which is a little bit nicer to look at. So this kind of gives you more of a 3D vision of what the track's going to look like. You can see the multiple berms and the double path that I mentioned at the bottom of the screen. So that allows for easy transfer back and forth. Pump tracks are really cool. They're really versatile because the same expert 23-year-old that wants to use it and whip around it fast can double bump and come up a little higher in the turns and berms, where, you know, the 4 or 5-year-old little girl on the Strider bike can also gain confidence on using the track and using those same berms and bumps to practice and hold their balance skills as well. So it's really versatile. Everybody in the community will be able to use it because it's a hard surface pump track, all wheels. So as I mentioned, skateboards, scooters, rollerblades, mountain bikes, BMX bikes, wheelchairs. I've seen guys race RC cars around it. So it's very versatile in that situation and really hits a vast amount of your community. And it's built for all skill levels as well. This gives you kind of another look at it. Gives you kind of an idea of how big it is. You got those 2 people standing up on the starting platform. So as you can imagine, 166 meters, it's quite a bit of length. This will easily keep beginners, intermediates, and advanced riders excited as they move through the track. They'll be able to do transfers as they get a little bit better, obviously. And yeah, super exciting to bring something like this to your community. A lot of communities are going this route. A lot of communities already have other action sports amenities like skate parks and bike parks. Pump tracks seem to be the new thing on the wish list. And yeah, it's going to be great to have something like this in Yorktown for you. Here is kind of another one. You can see the berms and bumps all here. So to answer some technical questions, the top of these berms on the back where you see the red lines, those will be at about 48 inches high, 4 feet roughly. The bumps in between those big berms, they're going to be sitting at about 24 inches, 18 to 24 inches high. The grass and everything around will come right up. On the back of all the berms, there are slight platform situations. So at no point would there be a risk of a child flying out on a 4-foot drop or anything like that. It's engineered to be safe, easily exited if needed to be. And yeah, we're excited about it. We got a great response back from your community and tried to build something that really fit into what they had asked for and wanted. And I hope you guys see that the same way we do.
Great.
I think I think we go into the survey. I'll let you take it back there.
Sure. Okay. No, that's good. I think there'll probably be questions at the end, but we'll keep going through this. So we've got a preliminary budget put together. So this is the full build out. Sorry, I just need to move these guys out of the way. which includes everything that you saw there, except for, sorry, on that full build-up plan, except for the washroom and the pump track lighting. And we had shown bleachers as a bit of a space holder. So they don't include that, but this is the full build-out estimate that we have at this point. This includes tax and also design fees as well, and contingency. So phase one, you saw with these elements here, the pump track, just that short little pathway, the berms, basketball courts, but again, excluding fencing, lighting, and acrylic surfacing, grading, seeding, landscape maintenance, stormwater ponds and swales. So this is where what we're estimating at this point for that phase one. And then again, this includes a contingency, PST, and design phase. We know that it's important to have all those things together. And if I just have a few, the next steps, we talked about the open house coming up. We expect to have a detailed design package done in January and February and tendering in March. So we're at a good point to capture a lot of that construction season. And then if I have, summer of 2023 to get that construction done. Just a bit about this, the resident input. The online survey, which also had the interview ahead of it, we thought that we had some good responses, 82 different responses, and 81 of those were respondents from Yorkton. When asked, most respondents, so this is one of the questions, Canadian Ramp Company had two different layouts, one that had a separate smaller area and an integrated one for more novice and more experienced users in one. Most respondents preferred what they have provided, which is an integrated experience. In terms of the people who actually responded, you can see that a lot of the people are in sort of they may be responding, and you can see that by some of their answers, they may be responding not for themselves and the use that they expect to get out of it, but they're responding for other people. So you can sort of see a little bit of that in the ages here. We don't have a lot of the younger kids who might be interested in this kind of thing as well. So what would you normally ride? And the number one response is a mountain bike, and second is not applicable. So again, they're responding on behalf of other people. They may not be the ones who are actually going to use the park or use this part of the park in any case. But it's not surprising that in a city that doesn't have a pump track that there's different users and different ways that people would use a space like this. We expect that would change once a pump track existed. What's your skill level? Of course, a lot of people said not applicable. They don't use a pump track. Some people said advanced, but a lot of people said beginner or intermediate. How many days a week would you get out and ride? A lot of people said 1 day. So perhaps a day on the weekend. If you or someone you know will use a park, and this is a question about what would add to your experience. And the first response, so we gave them a number of options, including won't use or watch, nearby activities for family members, lighting, pathways, protection from wind, shade, washroom, access to drinking water, bleachers, and picnic tables or benches. So the number one response was picnic or benches. Lighting was the second one, and then a washroom facility was the third. And so that's interesting because it was very similar when we asked about people who would be using a basketball facility. And would you engage in, if they were available? Yes. Probably if the court, maybe. And then no, we don't play. Would you come to watch? So some people don't participate, but they're going to watch other people. Yes, probably, maybe. And a lot of people no. If you regularly play or watch, so this is about the park amenities to add to that, and interestingly, they are the same top three in different order, but the same top three with lighting, washroom facility, and picnic tables or benches. And then what other park amenities would encourage you or someone in your household to visit Columbia Park? So walking or running paths were very important, toboggan hill or naturalized planting. We know that even though we have these, the park is centered around these two bigger facilities, the basketball courts and a pump track, that not everybody's going to fall into those categories, so you need to be able to provide a well-rounded park development, and so that's why we ask these questions. And that's the end of mine, because I think that we need to go back to Darcy, and then we may have questions after.
I mean, if you're okay, Your Worship, if you're okay, I'll
Please do,
just
Darcy.
finish
Yes.
off. Thank you. So council had previously allocated a total of $790,000 in the capital budget to provide the development of Columbia Park. A further $300,000 has been allocated to provide the required drainage in the park. Therefore, the current resources available for the project is $1,090,000. The initial estimate to complete the basketball courts, pump bike park, parking lot, and required drainage is $1.365, as you saw in the presentation, leaving a budget shortfall of $275,000. This number does not include items that can be completed at a later date, such as the lighting, both the basketball courts and the pump bike park, or acrylic surfacing on the courts or fencing around the courts. $87,000 of the estimated cost is attributed to PST, which was not previously required. Further, the other costs are attributed to more site prep than originally anticipated, along with the construction of an asphalt pathway to provide access to both the basketball courts and the pump bike park from the parking area. Asphalt is preferred, as was mentioned, to prevent tracking of mud and small pebbles onto the courts and track, which affect playability and rideability. Also, the budget estimates were provided before the recent inflationary increases that have influenced the market. As with all projects, the final cost could be higher or lower, but will be determined once the construction tenders close. If the tender cost is over the approved budget, the project will be brought back for council direction to proceed or for council to provide other direction at their discretion. The communication plan on public notice, the steering committee met with the user groups to receive feedback and input, which have been included in the design process. Public input has been sought through community surveys, both face-to-face, online, and written resident feedback. Information is also provided through the project webpage on the city's website and promoted on the city's social media platforms. Public open house is also planned for this Thursday, December 8th from 4 to 7 p.m. in the programming room at the public library. This project is a direct result of council's priorities as approved in the 2021 and 2022 capital budgets and in response to the direction set forth by council in previous council meetings. This project meets the strategic direction of Recreation and Community Services to ensure services are available that provide opportunities for youth and families to provide positive, healthy lifestyle choices. Further, the project also meets the community identified priority area that Yorkton will be a community with a comprehensive, integrated, and sustainable infrastructure plan and programs that meet current and future needs that include walking trails, bike paths, facilities, as stated in the 2020 strategic plan. So we've got a few options here, and there's probably more that maybe you'll have. You guys can discuss that, but the first one that we have here is the council direct administration to proceed with presenting the design concept of Columbia Park development, including the drainage plan, to the public open house on December 8th. Also to proceed to tender on phase 1, which will determine the final construction costs for phase 1 and report back to council with the bid results, and to obtain direction if the tender price exceeds the approved budget, and defer other phases of the Columbia Park development to future budgets. Second option would be the council direct administration to proceed with presenting a design concept at the Columbia Park development, including the drainage plan, to the public open house. Approve an additional $275,000 to increase the budget to complete phase 1 at this point. Proceed to tender on phase 1, again, which will determine the final construction costs and report back with the bid results to obtain direction if the tender price exceeds the $1.365, and defer other phases of Columbia Park development to future budgets. Or that council can direct administration to proceed to tender on the entire scope of the Columbia Park development project at the same time to garner any possible savings by doing the entire scope at the same time, and then report back to council with bids. Or other direction as you desire. Our recommendation is that council direct administration to proceed with presenting design concept of the Columbia Park development, including the drainage plan, to the public open house on December 8th. Proceed to tender on phase 1, which will determine the final construction costs for phase 1, and report back to council with the bids, and to obtain direction if the tender price exceeds the approved budget of $1.09 million, and defer other phases of the Columbia Park development to future budgets. Thank you. Lorene and Graham also are available to answer questions as well.
Thank you, Darcy. Council, how shall we proceed? Councillor Wyatt.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation to go with the option to approve the budget so far to 1.09 million, and let's see what it comes in at. And then obviously we'll have decisions to make, because I think the numbers, when you look at the extent of that project, which is beautiful, I just think we're going to be in for a surprise like we are with a lot of other projects that we are, and then we'll have to make a decision at that time if we're going to go ahead with it. But we do need to see what it's going to cost.
All right, thank you, Councillor Wyden. We need a seconder on that motion, please. Seconded by Councillor Hayter. Council, let's have some discussion. Councillor Zaria.
Yep, thank you, Your Worship. A few questions for you, Darcy. What was the initial budget for the basketball courts themselves?
That's a good question. I don't have that with me tonight. I don't know if the Director of Finance has that. It's broken down separately within our capital plan, though, yes.
Okay, and then, like, what was, you have to refresh me on how that came about. Like, were there numbers associated with, like, player numbers associated with coming up with the basketball design, or was that solely through a survey, or what was the basis?
The budget for the basketball courts was a asphalt survey, essentially as if we were building the pad itself. That's where the numbers came from for the basketball courts.
Sorry, I mean like the numbers to justify building a basketball court, like not the financial numbers.
Participant numbers.
Yeah.
No, this was, if I recall correctly, it's been a few years, but we talked about supporting outdoor basketballs and outdoor recreation activity because we didn't have any designated outdoor basketball courts.
Okay.
So we didn't really do a participant survey or anything at that time. It was just a need that was identified and brought forward as part of a capital budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then just like the part of the financial implications, like $87,000 in PST, that works out to 1.465 million. So that's just error, I guess, a little bit, or because you have 1.365 in there with the required drainage.
Well, the PST is included in the overall number.
Right, but if you work 87,000 backwards, it's 1.465 million.
Okay.
And then I'm not understanding it wasn't previously required, like PST on real property, that's my job kind of, that was effective in 2017 in spring. So why would it not be previously required?
The information I was provided is that it wasn't a cost to us before, but I'm not a taxation expert.
If I could, I think we're all just salty that we have to pay it on our construction now. Like, not in recent memory, we didn't have to pay PST on certain types of projects that we're doing, but it's included on everything now. So I think it's more just a comment that it's a tax that we do pay.
Right, I'm just saying, well, that was 5 years ago, so like, how we can't, know that there was $87,000 in PST seems kind of a little weird. Okay, that's all I have for questions.
Thank you, Councillor Zaharia. Councillor Chiz and then Councillor Hayter.
Yeah, I'm just, I don't know if this question is of Darcy or it's for Lorene. Those 82 people on that survey, 81 of them were Yorkton residents. I'm assuming these were the people that replied in favor of the project. Were there replies, people that didn't want to see this project in that area?
So I'm not sure. So the 81 out of 82 were they self-declared as Yorkton residents. They had to answer the questions that were of multiple choice, and then there were open-ended questions. The vast majority of the open-ended questions were positive or asked questions of the project. There were a few that had some negative comments about the project. We can get into what those are if you want me to, but does that help? I'm not sure that I'm understanding exactly the connection between the 82 and the maybe.
Well, I think there was 82 respondents to the survey, but we had other
Yeah.
written communication back to us as well, and some of that
Oh,
was
sure.
negative, yeah. So of the 82 respondents, that's just who took the online survey. We had other
right.
feedback provided online, or in some cases, handwritten and dropped off at our office that we provided to Lorene.
So
Yeah,
we,
and then we provided direct response to those.
so we have dropped off the survey right to the people close to that?
If anybody phoned our office, we would go and drop it off or have them pick it up,
Okay, it's
or
not,
email it to them.
it's not like when we do something to tender, it goes to all the...
We did drop off a letter indicating that there's a survey happening and ask them if they could take that or give us their feedback within 300 meters of the entire area of the park.
Okay,
So we did receive some resident feedback, yes.
It's good to hear that the response was positive, because I just, because it's, in those questions that were asked, it doesn't ask any negative questions, so
Yeah.
that's why I was asking.
Well, and there, don't get this wrong, there was some negative comments. There was people that, as we see with every project that we do, we don't ever get 100% rah, let's go do it. So, and we have all that information that will be in the report that Lorene provides us. All those comments and everything are in a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Chiz. Councillor Hayter, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody. Darcy, I think we're going about this the right way, consulting with the public before we start doing any construction and whatnot. So I like that. Has anyone spoken to the school nearby or the school board to talk about the water ponds?
A letter was sent to the division office because they're the people on the title of the land, so it went to the division office. I'm not sure if they were part of the response or not, but we can reach out and confirm with the principal at that school a little bit and do some personal contact.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Just being a principal myself, I know that when it wouldn't be all that likely there would be a lot of water there, but it could result in some supervision plan changes and stuff. So that'd be a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hayter. Councillor Zaharia.
Yeah, just one more question, and it's probably to the panel there. Is there an order that these need to be done? Like, does the drainage need to be done before the courts and or the pump track have to get started?
Do you want me to speak to that?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so that's likely how it would work. We need some of that fill that'll come out of the storm pond to do the grading of the rest of the area. So that is likely how it will work, is that the storm pond and the swales and the grading will get done first, or a good majority of it. What would be next? Once the grading is done and we have relatively, relatively speaking, we have the grades where we need them, then the pump track and the basketball court could go ahead at both times. They probably won't, but.
So the sole reason then to start the drainage first is to have the material for the other project?
No. The ponds and the swales came directly out of the recommendation from the flood mitigation study that was done after your bad flooding several years ago, and that was one of the recommendations out of that could help flooding in the neighborhood by providing a certain amount of storage volume in this park. It's only one of the recommendations from that mitigation study. But it seemed like when we got introduced to this idea, the best way to do this would be to do all the planning at the same time. And so we have, just to make sure that we have a park that functions as a park, but also can function to have the volume of storage that was recommended out of that study.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zaharia. Past Deputy Mayor Zaharia, if you take the chair, please. I've got some
Certainly, Your
questions
Worship.
and comments. Thank you. I guess we're going to start off with, can you just give us some Saskatchewan cities that have already put one in again? Was it Martinsville or Warman? If you could give us a few names, please.
Yes, so we've done recent tracks actually in North Battleford this year, just built a track. Martinsville, we did one as well. El Rose, Saskatchewan is close, and I will get a complete list up here. They've been being built in Western Canada quite a while. We've done Tofield, Saskatchewan as well.
Alberta.
Yellowknife, Northwest Territories. I'm just going to pull up a list. They are a fairly, as mentioned, new wish list item because of the versatility of them. Our construction seasons are getting backed up. We only have the capacity to do about 8 to 10 of these a year, and we are just booking up essentially. So Martinsville, Battleford are the two completed ones within the last 2 years that we've done in the province of Saskatchewan. We have 2 more planned for this year, and then obviously we're talking with Yorkton as well.
Thank you. Pardon me?
Oh, sorry, I can just add that this city of Regina put one in the Lakeview neighborhood just last year.
Great, thank you. A few questions or comments still on my part. The design of the layout, the back alleys, I see potential there for more parking. Have we considered that in the design element of the layout?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. You do have more potential. What ends up happening with that is that the more you kind of take off of that alley side, the more the swales need to push into the park. So it's absolutely, we could have more parking. We have nose-in parking along the north side, and that's because we had the big storm pond there, and we could make that work. If we were to take it off of the east side, it gets a little bit squishy because we have to bring in the swales as well. But it's absolutely up to you, and it depends on, you know, how much parking you want to try to accommodate on the site.
Thank you. It's just more of an observation. It's really out of my league, but just a comment. I just wanted to bring this to everyone's attention that we recently put a new platform for public engagement called Shape Your City. And after the first survey, we've had 264 respondents sign on. They were given the first 3 priorities that they wanted to see happen in our city. Number 1 was actually for roads. That was the number 1 priority. Number 2, coincidentally, came in tied at 46% for public or park amenities, which of course this falls under that perfectly. Tied with that was, quite surprisingly, was flood mitigation, which is really incredibly serendipity in my mind. But again, the public are speaking finally, and we finally can really get a true reflection of what we're to do as council and where we're supposed to spend money. That's the whole purpose of it. It was a missing piece to the puzzle that we finally have acquired. The public's allowed to sign on and ask or request what they want to learn more from and be engaged with, whether it be a live kind of engagement on commentary and see what else is being said. So this fits in perfectly with it, and I'm totally in support of seeing where this can go. I know it's money spent, but of course it's not to be taken lightly. I do know that people want to get outside and be physically active. And with that, I'll take the chair back, Deputy Mayor. Thank you. Council, any other more comments, please? Seeing none, I will call for a motion to approve what's on the floor. All in favor? And that is unanimous. There are none opposed. Thank you very much for your presentation, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate it very much. This is a new concept for Saskatchewan, and we want to have people, this is going to be a growing province, so have many people moving into town. Thank you. Thank you, Darcy.
Thank you so much.
Our pleasure. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.